Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Having a great time today here on Cougar Sports Saturday, coming to you live from Sinclair's first ever Dino Day, 8325 North Burton Drive in Lake Points, out west here by Tooele. I-80 West, swing on by, come say hi. We got a bunch of swag from Sinclair, and you can save up to 30 cents off on your gas per gallon with the Dino Pay app. So swing on by here. Dino Day, 8325 North Burton Drive in Lake Point. So last week rolled out, Mitch Harper, Matt Baiamonte with you every single week here on Cougar Sports Saturday. Rolled out the 100 greatest BYU football players of all time. And number one on that list was Ty Detmer. And I caught up with Ty Detmer recently to discuss his ranking and his place and just catch up with Ty, the greatest of all time in BYU history. And I asked him, what's your reaction to being number one on KSL Sports' top 100 BYU football players list of all time?
Well, I'm flattered, but, it's always hard to pick the best. There's different positions, different era, different opponents, all those things. But I appreciate the vote of confidence. But, there are a lot of great players that have come through BYU, and just fortunate to be a part of one of them.
There really has been a lot of amazing players, especially at the quarterback position, and it's well documented, the quarterback factory here. And when you arrived at BYU, how much did you know about the history of the factory when you were going through the recruiting process?
Well, that was a reason for being interested in BYU for sure. To hear of, Gifford Nielsen, Mark Wilson, Jim McMahon, Steve Young, Robbie Bosco just won a national championship. And then you get on campus and the old football office where Shirley was, and all the coaches went down, stairs there in the Smith Fieldhouse, but they had the Davey O'Brien medals and the trophies and some of those things up on the wall. And, you come in as a freshman and it's like, man, it would be cool if I could have one up there too. And so just the tradition kind of, made you want to be one of those guys and have that opportunity, So it was a special place for quarterbacks then, for sure.
What was your first memory of BYU football, even when you were growing up? And did you have any knowledge of BYU before your recruiting process?
Not much. I knew of the whole debate whether they were national championship or national champions or not. Being in Texas, it was all Big 12 then, or whatever, Southwest Conference.
Yeah.
And so but I saw a team that threw the ball, and I think I remember watching a little bit of that Michigan game, the Holiday Bowl, and just seeing them spread out and doing what we were doing in high school. The backs were involved in the routes and things like that. So I didn't know anything else about BYU, didn't even know where Provo was. But I knew that there was a school out there throwing the ball and producing great quarterbacks.
You were at BYU from 1987 to 1991. I sometimes forget that you did have that redshirt year.
Yep.
Because I think with quarterbacks nowadays, you just think they got to get on the field or else they're going to go into the portal. I'm
Right.
curious, when that first year when you were redshirting, was there ever any homesickness or thinking, man, this isn't what I thought it was, and I want to maybe look elsewhere? What was that first year like when you were redshirting? I
never had those thoughts ever. Matter of fact, I think we were playing at TCU, or Night of the Crickets. And I was a redshirt, but we were struggling offensively. I think Sean Covey came in, replaced Bob Jensen, and we were still just struggling. And it was probably later in the year. I don't think it was early in the year, but I kind of was like looking at coaches like, am I going to get my shot? And fortunately they held off. I probably wouldn't have been any better that first year. They held off and allowed me to kind of mature a little bit more and then ease into it my freshman year, the next year.
You got your first start, I believe it was New Mexico in 1988. What do you remember about that moment, or just getting told that you were going to be the starter? Can you describe what that moment was?
Yes, fortunately I'd played some before that. Didn't have the greatest experience at Wyoming that first game, but, had other parts, parts of games and had some success and kind of grew from that Wyoming game. But it was a different beast being a starter. I know the nerves were there. I don't think we did great the first series or two, just kind of, getting your feet wet a little bit, and then all of a sudden we took off and put it on them pretty good and threw a few TDs and things like that. But I remember having some pregame nerves, knowing that you were going to be the guy, and it's a little different than coming in at halftime with nothing to lose.
How did you prepare as a starting quarterback? Like, what was a work week like for Ty Detmer, the starting quarterback, where it was a heavy emphasis on just breaking out as much film as you possibly could? Like, what was that work week like?
Yeah, getting to know their defense, but more importantly, getting more reps in practice helps. As a backup, you don't get too many, a few here and there, but having all the reps that week and just being able to run the offense throughout the whole week really helped kind of prepare you more so than, just diving in on the film. But the defense is what it is. You got to read it no matter what they throw at you, and be prepared. So I felt comfortable after having a full week of reps.
What was the moment that you became the full-time full-time starting quarterback in 1989? We know that, but like the moment that Lavelle or the staff, Norm Chow, told you that you are the guy, now you are the face of this part. What was that like?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, we played Colorado in the Freedom Bowl at the end of that season, and I came in at half. We ended up winning the game. I think that really kind of solidified things in the coach's mind, like, hey, we're probably going to make a change next year. But then Sean Covey went through knee surgery in the spring, so he missed all the spring ball. So that kind of allowed me to get in there and become, a leader with the guys in the huddle and get a ton of reps there for spring. And then we did, compete. We still, you had to compete in fall camp. And then I remember Lavelle pulling me in and saying, hey, you're the guy. And, it's your team. And I come out and Sean's there and he's like, hey, it's his senior year. It's tough, losing that to a sophomore. But he, true to form, Sean being Sean, was like, I'm here to help you. And whatever you need, just let me know. If you want me looking at safeties or helping you read coverage when you come off, let me know what I can do to help. And that meant a lot, knowing that, there wasn't contention. He had my back and that, it was my job and here we go. And so just the whole thing, the way everybody handled it, from coaches to Sean and the other quarterbacks, was awesome.
When you bring up Lavelle, just saying you're the guy, that just seems like so Lavelle, like just simple, but like, man, like when he speaks, it was just so profound.
Yeah, that was Lavelle. He didn't, sit there. It wasn't a long speech. It was, hey, be a leader, become, keep doing what you've been doing, and we'll grow with you, that kind of thing. But it was, and I'm in Lavelle's office. I'm not going to say a lot. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Looking forward to it, and that was it. So,
what do you remember about Lavelle's office? Like, what was it like? Because it was in the Smith Fieldhouse across the street. There wasn't the student athlete building back then. It was in that field house.
Yeah, it was right there. The first office you come to down the steps, and I mean, he had all kinds of awards, and not his own personal awards, but a lot of memorabilia and things in there, and the big desk, the big comfy chair, and it was like he's the head guy. So you had a ton of respect for him, and just all that he'd done for the program.
And when you talk about everything he did for the program, I feel like people don't realize now, after his time's gone by, like how big BYU football was at that time. And I know there was still that fight for respect, being in the WAC, but BYU football was like a factory of football minds would descend on Provo and pick apart what Lavelle's doing, because it was just so innovative. And how was it to be around just football minds and the people probably walking in and out of the halls observing that program at the time and being a part of it.
Yeah. Well, people were coming in like young guys. You look at Hal Mummy and Leach, and those guys were young. They were just coming in like soaking it all up. But Mike Holmgren had been there, and Gary.
Doug
Scoville. Some great football minds early on had come in there and passed along some of that. Lavelle wasn't a real X's and O's guy at that time. I'm sure when he got there, he was a defensive coach, overall. So he had the foresight to say, hey, I need to bring in some sharp offensive guys, and he did. But there were guys and coaches always coming through, and you'd see them passing, and they were in watching film and just seeing what we were doing. And Norm Chow was great. He'd go off. He went to Detroit when the run and shoot was big, and he brought back some concepts, and we tried them in spring. And if I liked them, he kept them in. If I didn't, he threw them out. And to his credit, it wasn't like he tried to force feed you things. It was, he knew that the quarterback had to be comfortable with it, or it wasn't going to be successful. So he was going and bringing a few ideas in as well. So it was a great place to be, and just you never knew concepts were coming and going, and people were coming and learning, and our coaches were going and bringing things back too. So it was awesome.
You mentioned the Heisman Trophy, Ty, and that image of you in Hawaii and having that first reaction, and everyone's looking at you. It's iconic. It's in BYU lore. It's one of the great images of BYU football. I'm curious, what was that, a team hotel? Where was that at? And just the thoughts leading up to that night, that Saturday night and that weekend. And did you really think you were going to win the Heisman?
So I think going into it, Rocket Ismail obviously getting a ton of attention at Notre Dame, and they're on TV every week. And I don't think I ever let myself think that it would happen. And then we were in Hawaii. We flew over on Thursday. We were going to play that night on Saturday night. And Friday, the USA Today paper comes out with the weekend edition. And so they had one for every room. And I just remember looking at it, and they had kind of a straw poll a little bit. And I was on top. And it was kind of the first time you really thought, man, this could actually happen. And so it was different. It was a week earlier back then, so we did have a game. There were a couple other, I think David Klingler was playing somewhere, so he was off site. But the cool thing about it was the coaches, the players, everybody got to be there. Where if you go to New York, it's your family and a coach, generally, maybe a couple teammates, but for that, everybody got to be there, and it was cool because I really felt like everybody was a part of it. And then we got out and got our butts kicked that night, but it was a pretty cool celebration. The guys were fired up, and it was neat to have everybody there.
That's a good point, because that 1990 team was pretty special, and I think that I remember going to that Hawaii game. You guys still had kind of an outside shot at maybe a national championship race, at being in the top 5 or so. Do you feel like it was also maybe that Heisman a byproduct of all the players before kind of building up the quarterback factory, as we talked about earlier?
Oh, for sure. Without, Gifford and Mark and Jim and Steve and Robbie, who they really put the program on the map. And I was fortunate to be able to play a number 1 team. Sometimes they didn't have that on their schedule, a top 10 team or things like that. All of them kind of had signature wins along the way. But for me, having number 1, there's no disputing now level of competition and all those things. To be able to beat Miami really set it off, But those guys were the initial, okay, we need to watch this guy because of those other guys.
You bring up the Miami game, and what's interesting too, it seems like with Miami, at least from my vantage point, that Miami team still holds up. And you guys too, it was 2 teams of the 80s squaring off, 2 programs that defined the previous decade, and squaring off on that, what was it, the video, the rare hurricane watch over Provo, Utah. The competition that you were facing in that game against Miami, and then just how good also you guys were too in that matchup.
Yeah, fortunately we were able to play them a couple years before down in the Orange Bowl, and they got after us pretty good. But I think some of us young guys got some time in the second half, and I know I learned a ton from that game about their speed and just how they played. So we had a little bit of experience with them, but I know that team felt confident. We had a great senior group and then a good strong junior group behind, so it was a perfect combination to be able to go and play teams like that. So it was just kind of the right place, the right time that night, and everything fell into place. Defense played great. Everybody was a piece of that one.
That win, you kind of marvel that it holds the test. I mean, it's always going to be revered, but still probably be the best win in program history.
Yeah, I think because of that, because they're number one. And it's not like they were number one and then ended up number 25. Yep. I think they might have even won the national championship or finished second that year.
They won the Cotton Bowl and crushed Texas.
Yeah, so it wasn't like they weren't a good team, and so they kept winning and winning and winning and ended up proving that was a good quality win.
How fun was that? That ride after that. I mean, and how challenging was it to avoid the distractions? I mean, in the media today, it's distracting. I can only imagine how much it was back then too.
Well, the next week wasn't very fun, especially in the first half. We got down pretty good to Washington State, who had a pretty good football team. Yeah. But we kind of talked like, hey, that Miami win's not going to mean anything if we don't back it up the next week. And we came out a little flat, fell behind. But then got it going in the second half and ended up having a great come from behind win and then kind of set off, and then you got, I think San Diego State, and we ended up losing to Oregon, which tough place to play. They were ready for us. I didn't practice all week, didn't have my best game due to a hand injury. But, we had just a fun team. It was an exciting team to watch. You never knew what was going to happen, but you knew we were going to put some points on the board, and just a fun team, fun season to be a part of.
What was the personalities like of those BYU teams that you were part of from '88 to '91? Like, I guess I think on the outside, people just assume BYU is just a bunch of cookie cutter LDS guys that don't do anything, but like there's always been great personalities in the BYU football program, and you of course part of that, and just maybe highlight some of the dynamics of the locker room in those years.
Yeah, it was a dynamic locker room. I mean, you have Brian Mitchell, Tony Crutchfield, Matt Bellini, Mike O'Brien the year before. You had some characters, and then you had a few renegades that were towing the line. They were making it and doing what they could to stay in school, but overall, we meshed really well, and I don't know. I mean, if I had a hand in that, it's kind of I wasn't a partier. I didn't stay out and hang around.
Not
all
into
the time.
the crazy Hawaii stories that we hear in the urban legend now.
No, it wasn't Jim McMahon there, and so. But I think I could help bridge all of those different personalities together, and I got along with everybody. Yeah. I mean, I got along with every group, and from the Polynesians to the guys from Texas that helped recruit to the guys from LA, and the guys from Utah, and we were pretty close-knit group and just had a great time.
That's pretty cool. I appreciate you sharing that, because Lavelle always had a pretty good eye of just bringing guys in, and that BYU brand can really kind of bring people together.
It can, and he did a great job of educating the players and keeping them in line, trying to make sure they understood what was expected of them, and we had some characters, and you go from Bob Davis to the whole crew. Linebackers are a little bit out there anyway, but Lavelle did a great job of managing all those personalities as well, and making sure guys were doing the right things.
Beyond the Miami game, are there other games that you look at personally for you in high regard? And it can be any direction that you want to take it, but like any games that you just like look back and go, that was a sweet moment.
Yeah, Well, I mean, we lost to Penn State in the Holiday Bowl the year before in '89, but I think that gave us a ton of confidence going into the next season because, I mean, as a kid, I'd watch Penn State, and they were built on defense. And then we went in there and threw for 500 yards and kind of a couple fluke plays at the end, or otherwise we win it or we tie them, on a 2-point conversion. But I think that gave us a ton of confidence. So even though it was a loss, I felt like that gave us a springboard for getting ready for Miami the next year, and then some belief that we could play with anybody. I think in '89 beating Utah the way we did after they beat us the year before was kind of a little revenge game. That was a sweet victory just because we'd had to hear it all year long,
First 7 drives, right? So you guys are up 49-0 before you can even blink, and Lavelle was kind enough to say, let's call it the dog. You guys could have probably put up 100.
Yeah, I think I played one series in the second half and we scored, and then it was out, So, that one was pretty special just because we'd heard about it the whole time. I still tell Scott Mitchell he owes me some more yards because had he played, I probably would have stayed in the game longer. Some of those, beating Oregon in '89, they had an All-American corner, and Jeff Franson, I think, had 3 or 4 touchdowns on him specifically, so you go back and you look, and some of the games, even tying San Diego State my senior year to give us a chance to win the WAC against Utah the next week. We didn't win the game, but we were super happy with the tie being down 45-17. So, and then we beat Utah the next week and won the WAC and went to the Holiday Bowl again. So.
I remember that it got archive audio from the KSL radio back in the day. Lavelle in the post game, he'd actually take calls, which is just insane to think I coached that. Right? that after that game, there was a fan that called in and said, "Why don't you go for the win?" And I think it was paraphrasing. He said something to the effect that, "Well, we wanted the conference title," and that was pretty special, and how good those BYU San Diego State games. I mean, really, those were the games that really kind of started weeknight football that we know with now Thursdays on NFL and Friday nights. And it all kind of began with BYU San Diego State.
Yeah, they had some talent. I mean, Marshall Faulk and Dan McGuire, the quarterbacks, is 6'8". I mean, Darnay Scott and Patrick Rowe were great receivers. You look back and there were some guys on their defense, even though it was always an offensive shootout, they had some defensive guys playing the NFL too. And so we always knew they were talented and it was going to be a test, and kind of got up for those games. And they were usually late night and late getting home. The San Diego airport had a curfew, and they let us go a few times after the curfew, but just because the ball was in the air and both teams were throwing it.
Last couple things for you, Ty. I appreciate all this time here. It's just awesome to look back. I could go on and on. How much of an impact did BYU football, your experience at BYU, just shape you as a person, your life today, just everything that moving forward after your playing days at BYU?
Well, there's a lot of great things that happened for me off the field too at BYU. We're joining the church, meeting my wife, getting married, and a lot of things happen for you, I think, as a college age person, where you're trying to figure out who you want to be and who you are. But, football wise, it was the perfect place for me. I mean, it was small town, great fan base, hunting and fishing, right there, at your fingertips, where you could get away from it for a little bit. And then just the perfect system and the perfect group of guys to be with. So, for me, it couldn't have been a better fit, personally and athletically. So, it definitely, shapes who you are as you learn to be an adult on your own, 1,000 miles from home. You have to figure a lot out, and for me, BYU is a great opportunity to do that.
Do you still look back on your time at BYU and your relationship with BYU in high regard?
Oh, 100%. Obviously the coaching didn't go as planned, but that'll never tarnish my appreciation for what BYU offered me as a player and as a student and as a person. And so always grateful for BYU and what it provided me and the opportunities.
That's the great Heisman Trophy winner, Ty Detmer, celebrating Dinosaur Day. Dino Day, Sinclair's first ever Dino Day at 8325 North Burton Drive in Lake Point. And throughout the day, we've been here with Lauren, who's been letting all of our listeners know about all the great deals and promotions we got for Dino Day. And we need to get some more people out here, Lauren. What can we do to get more people out here? What's some of the offers and opportunities they have to celebrate Dino Day?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is you're going to get 30 cents off your premium oil tonight, the whole day, until midnight tonight.
Why should people use is the wrong word, but why do you think consumers should go for the premium grade gasoline?
Yeah. It's just so much better on your car. So I have a Honda Pilot.
Okay.
I got it in 2016. It had 3 miles on it. Fast forward to 2024, it has 202,000 miles on it.
Whoa, you are loading up.
I just have to get all the miles.
Wow.
Yeah, but I have only ever put premium gas into that car, and I have had zero maintenance done.
Wow.
Zero.
Are you telling me 200,000 miles, no maintenance?
No, just like new tires, new brakes, oil changes. Yeah.
The preventative care.
Yeah, so other than tires, brakes, and oil changes, I have had done zero maintenance. Nothing has ever gone wrong. Knock on wood, has gone wrong on my Honda Pilot.
You know, it's probably not so. This might be a reach here, guys, but stay with me. It's probably like the equivalent of like eating healthy and clean for our bodies, right?
Yeah.
Like we're just putting in. And look, I love fast food. I love Mountain Dew. I love the junk. But if I'm always consuming that,
yeah,
I'm going to be breaking down more often.
Correct.
Same here with the car, right?
It really is like that. Yeah, your car can be fine with the lower grade, but you will notice a huge difference in your car if you up it to the premium grade.
Yeah, because it cleans your engine, maximizes mileage, and reduces emissions. And, Dino Day with Sinclair, it's nationwide, so anywhere with Sinclair gas, you can take advantage of this 30 cents off. And do you by chance know, Lauren, how many gas stations are there in Utah with Sinclair? Do you know by chance?
No.
No, but there's a lot. I mean,
There's so many.
Throughout the valley, we've had all of our sibling stations with Bonneville through up and down the state celebrating Dino Day with all the different locations. So we're out here at Lake Point, and they can take advantage at the pump and they just go to the pump and just use the Dino Pay app, and they'll see that right there, that knocked off that discount?
Yeah, it'll automatically do it. So once they pay through the Dino app, it'll say lowering fuel prices, and it'll automatically come down. And we're here till 3, so if you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, come see us until 3 today, and we can help you get all set up with the Dino Pay app if you don't have it.
Yeah, exactly. I love tech, so I'm going to download it myself.
Yes.
But for those who are a little, not tech challenged, but just need a little assistance, get here by 3 p.m. to get help to get set up, 8325 North Burton Drive in Lake Point, Utah. We're not here very often. We do a BYU show. We're down in Utah County a lot. So now is the time to come meet us, get set up with the Dino Pay app. We'll be here till 3 p.m. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Take advantage.
Take advantage. I love it. Taking the break. On the other side, BYU basketball. It just continues to excite. Let's break down what we think maybe the starting lineups could be for BYU hoops.